High Mysticism by Emma Curtis Hopkins. Chapter 11. Ministry. The 11th and 12th lessons constitute a science by themselves, a science for the most part unintelligible, save to the awakened practitioners of the directions of the first 10 lessons. The 11th and 12th lessons are the osteology of the mystical science. Chapter 11. Ministry. Keep hard to one science till you master it. Light flashes on any subject or object by much attention to it. The disciples of the Christ preached one name only till it flashed into imagine effulgence through them, and they founded that mighty league the world has since acknowledged as destined to endure forever. They believe that he that is faithful over a few things, I will make him ruler over many. King Solomon stood to the building of one house, till in the 11th year it shed abroad such an influence from the unseen world to which it was pointed, that all who looked to it were set at liberty. Jonah, in the darkness of his dreadful prison, looking often and often to the temple's distant dome, glistening under a noonday sun, his outer eyes saw not, left his dark prison, hurled suddenly toward the heaven-charmed house of Solomon. David knew that whoever would look straight to the unseen highest would be set at liberty from his weight of flesh and his weight of foolishness. They looked unto him and were lightened, he declared. So true has this ever been that people have actually found themselves dropping corpulence by seeking Ein Sof, the beautiful countenance of the Absolute, above thinking and above being. They have also found themselves lightened of their cap of ignorance, knowing wonderful and happifying laws, by oft-time and oft-time answering back the wooing supernal with wooing responses. Thou hast made me wiser than mine enemies, cried David, after daringly announcing that his eyes were ever turned toward the Lord. Looking toward a sky beyond our visible sky, the ancient Norsemen saw the Adam and Eve of the New World, which should once more arise after the twilight and destruction of the gods. They caught Norse names for the Adam and Eve of the world to be, Lith and Lithrisir. Looking to the sky above the sky, the Mayans of ancients found the origin of mind. It was a goddess. They named her by a Mayan name, signifying Mother of the Nature Mind. Gazing high, Hesiod the Greek saw rushing spirits scattering gifts among the sons of men, which the sons of men took no notice of, except when the gifts rushed into them, here and there, as stars sometimes collide with each other. Hesiod did not seem to discover that the sons of men may woo the rushing gods to grant each its own kind of gift to the wooing one. Other Greeks tell us that as the worshippers of Mercury wooed Mercury to grant unto them prosperity, and the worshippers of Morpheus cried unto him for sleep, lifting up their hands with their eyes, beckoning and beckoning Morpheus, till in his whiteness he folded them in sleep. So every 19 years the higher wooed Apollo came into sight to grant happy harvests and beautiful offspring. Some oft-time watcher toward the heights above the skies, to what a great king once called the glory above the heavens, is to catch a new language. It is not to come to the greatest linguist among us, for he has had his gaze on men to catch their intonations and accents, or on books to teach him grammatics and word derivations. The new linguist shall be the speech of right judgment to some second Abraham, facing unspeakable judgeship, bearing his head to the inscrutable unseen, meekly declaring, shall not the judge of all the earth do right? And a great multitude shall speak his language, a great multitude whom no man can number. For it shall be the speech of heaven and earth as one speech, whose words shall instantly accomplish that whereunto they are sent. If Apollonius could speak 6 languages he had never studied because of his much talking to invisible gods, how wonderful must be the discourse of the great, the mighty God, great in counsel and mighty to work. For that new Abraham, who much and often notices that the judge of all the earth is speaking divinely executive words, never before heard on this planet. The very name Abraham means a great multitude. What a wide swath shall the new Abraham or Abraham cut. He who holds his conversation high. Notice how broken up and wildly dissatisfied people are if events and circumstances run into unwanted cosmic currents, which no human being seems to be able to stem. They are no Abram or Abraham of the new dispensation. Only the old language of grieving and rebellion advances forth from them toward us. The psychometry of them is old Ephraim, like a silly dove without heart, as Hosea the prophet explained. Let us notice the comrade Abram drew toward himself by agreeing what a wonderful judge is handling the universe. Melchizedek visited him. Origen said Melchizedek was an angel. Martin Luther and Melanchthon said he was Shem, a survivor of the deluge. Aphanius said he was the Son of God appearing in human form. The Jews said he was the Messiah made visible. He brought out bread and wine to Abram and blessed him. So he who holds his conversation high shall comrade with noble visitants, and cause their inspiring instructions through his speech to ray forth new truth throughout the earth. Is it well with thee, saith the high judge? According to thy judgment it is well with me. Therefore it is well, he shall answer. Thus he grants the judgment of the great judge to strike fire with his own judgment, as bamboo stick striking bamboo stick sparks fire, sparking him into new life conditions. So, and only so responding, can man swing in with the advancing new order, rejoicing with new rejoicings, shedding across the earth morning beams of the new age. Let us isolate with the heights, that our ministry be of the heights, new, far-reaching, irresistible, after the order of Melchizedek. Attention to the overlooking vast highest wakes self-recognition, calls attention to hidden self. What Novalis, the poet friend of Schiller, called our transcendental ego. Some other long ago mystic Germans noticed that as they were glancing upward, they found the heights gazing toward them. Then they declared, God's sight with which he sees me is the same sight with which I see him. As all invisible operations clashing together form visibles, so right judgment is made visible in speech and action by looking toward the judge, that shall be in those days, as Moses foresaw for us. He shall bring forth thy judgment as the noonday. We have certain invisibles to glance toward, which can cause undesirable speech and action to formulate. Notice John Calvin upward watching toward his own flying imaginations, and seeing them smiling on his actions as he burned the good Servetus for disagreeing with him. Beza, an adorer of Calvin's imaginations, declared that all who oppose Calvin ought to be hanged. But when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness. Thy judgment was unto me a robe and a diadem. Thy speech bewrayeth thee, the officer said to Peter, who had been with Jesus, the new teacher in Jerusalem. Doubtless when Peter spoke of high watch, they knew he was a Christian and could probably raise the dead. Only attention to the highest wakes self-recognition that rises to cross the bar above prejudices and false judgments. Across the bar, truth is the only language. Truth, according to that language, has promised to stop the discords of human minds and its angry sensations. We are all candidates for that victorious truth, not yet spoken. There is a health zone facing us. Notice that the sick who have not crossed the health zone have to spring above the bar, laying hold of health, or they must stay under, this side of the health zone. David lifted up his hands with his eyes and caught on the hands of health stretching toward him. I cried unto thee, and thou hast healed me, he acknowledged. So also, Peter, laying hold of the hands beyond the bar stretching toward him, crossed above into health, taking many people along with him. There is originality beyond the bar. Let us lay hold of original knowledge, stretching hitherward, and be drawn up into new quickening doctrines. Let us speak with new tongues. The quickening wisdom hither streaming shall cause those people who, like Sisera, are planning to do the world mischief, to suddenly forget their plans, and themselves be drawn high across the bar into wise peace. Let us acknowledge high judgment. Let us cross the bar into that state where we are not afraid. Judging this side, the judgment bar, we are often afraid. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. Come, O people, let us all together cross the upper bar, laying hard hold of the hands that stretching toward us draw us into fearless wholeness. We went through fire and water, but thou broughtest us out into a wealthy place. He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. Let us all together be born into the above, the apostles called high in their day, led off by Peter the ardent. By stretching forth thine hand to heal, he cried, signs and wonders may be done by the name of thy holy child Jesus. In strength of hand the Lord spake thus unto me, reported the son of Amoz, brother of the king. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. The executive faculty in man is his inner visional sense. Wherever this visional sense looks, other senses are pointed and insist likewise with it. Looking upward to a sun it cannot see, the oak tree rises into a higher country, all sunshine, wind, and rain, to nurture its awakening greatness of body, limb, and leaf. Enduring as seeing the sun of righteousness with healing in his wings, man enters the country above, where visible angels and their judgments comrade with him. A new sunshine gives him new views of his fellow man. No longer can he see the precious sons of Zion any other than the fine gold Jeremiah declared them to be. As the morning sun shows off the roses in the garden to be altogether different from what they look to be in moonless nighttime, so people everywhere are judged differently by all who have crossed the bar into the bright upper country. Let us not look back to Chaldea or Egypt or India for the great secret of miracle-working life. Let us look to the upper country, close at hand. By strength of hand the Lord brought us out from this place, shall say the new leaders heavenward. Let us spring past the bar of bondage into the free country of health and right judgment. Behold, now is the accepted time. Behold, now is the day of salvation. Caliph Ali was called the Lion of God because high vision had caught him that man's own lot or portion in life is seeking after him. When ye pray, believe that ye have, and ye shall have, said Jesus. They all say the same things when they look to the upper kingdom. Far through the misty future, like an arrow of golden light, an hour of joy ye know not, is winging its silent flight. But how can we enter the joyous realm while we are bemoaning our lower lot? Even Dante saw that we must take our eye off our circumstances and look up to the river of heaven flowing over our heads. He agreed with the son of Amoz. And when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like an herb. The Muslim knows that knowing that his own is this minute looking toward him is a drawstring on its hurrying toward him. Knowing is a drawstring. Deep in the heart of thee, soundlessly low, the Vak language wordless, thy soul pointeth, lo. The gnomon in the heart is ever tending toward the upper country. Homeward is the Tao's course. By the law of number 10, we learn to take back to ourselves the lordship we gave to defeat deafness, death. We take back to ourselves the power we gave to people to hurt our feelings. We take back to ourselves the power we gave to poverty, inconsequence, ignorance. We learn that the 24 elders of paradise are gratified at our temerity, and shout, We give thee thanks, Lord God Almighty, because thou hast taken to thyself thy great power, and hast reigned. By the law of number 11, we learn to use our hither-drawn plenteousness of power to spring upward into our native and rightful new wisdom, new health, new views of life. The Egyptians saw in us, so re-empowered, a likeness to the scarab drawing sustenance from the very dirt ball that humiliated it, and using that sustenance so drawn to strengthen its down-pressed wings to fly into free sunshine, free airs, free rains, free denizens of higher life. This is not only euphony, sweet wordings. It is humanly practical. Immediately, people do stop hurting our feelings and sink into flatness when we take to ourselves the power we gave them to hurt us. Immediately, ignorance lets go, and genius of a new order is ours when we take back to ourselves the harming power we gave to ignorance. So our genius for rising as forehelpers to the discouraged and defeated in the battles of human beings with their human dirt balls fulfills the prophecies of 3,000 years ago. I will lead them in paths they have not known. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall be an angelic ministry. It is no wonder that Jesus of Nazareth could go in and out of the kingdom at his will, seeing that he had taken back to himself the crushing power he had given to earth, and the hiding power he had given to heaven. How triumphant his voice! All power is given unto me, in heaven and in earth. Where I am, there ye may be also. Was not Paul wonderful to say, I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me? Were not the Brahmins wonderful to discover? Brahma is you yourself. Was not Jesus wonderful to explain? Did not he that made that which is without make that which is within also? Himself always crossing the bar beyond the shadow system, forever finding that the highest self and the inmost self is one self. Men act foolishly by reason of judging from the evidence of the shadow system, this side of the highest. As if our money is snatched away, we judge that we are deprived and humiliated. That is judging within the shadow system, this side of the high rich zone. Looking up and crossing the judgment line, we lay hold of the hand that stretching hitherward giveth liberally. Miracles of unexpected combinations, shadows of finished splendors from across the bar, do surely then transact in our behalf. So we judge another way and word concerning life. We judge with Abraham that truly the judge of all the earth doeth right. We jubilantly talk face to face. In thine hand it is to make great and to give strength. Riches and honor come of thee. Wise Hebrews of old were watching for the power of the highest to overshadow some divinely sensitive human and drop a Messiah into the world. It is declared by certain Hebrews that many Jews have really believed that Jesus and Mary fulfilled the prophecy, though they were pledged to act against their own believing. As there is an exoneral influence from secret believing, we now see over 600 million declared Christians as outward marks of the secretly held believing of the Hebrews. For unexpressed believings come to outward showings. They are the idle words that burst forth into active exhibitions. They are still believings that find their way into loud results. That every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof. Now is come the time of the dead, the still, that they should be judged. And Emar of Kashmir had an occult reader of secret unexpressed believing. It was his genius to lay his finger on the unconsciously held believings of the high court officials and prophesy exactly how they would actualize. Many an important personage was astonished at being removed from office. Many a lesser personage was amazed at being promoted. The emir sent the occultist to England to put his finger on the sub-secret of England's greatness. Britannia rules the waves, and the sun never sets on her dominions. This, for the outward grandeur of a little island people, must be explained to the emir. He waited 3 years while the occultist watched for the hidden springs. Finally, the occultist found the deepmost national secret of England's greatness. It was I, H.S. Jesu Amina Salvator, or in Oxigna, Jesu the Savior of mankind, or in this sign conqueror. The emir ordered the mystical formula, IHS, to be inscribed on all his own possessions, curtains, rugs, gold, and silver plate. Go to now. I also will be a great power, he said. The Hebrews of old had an almost forgotten formula of faith. It was that there shall no man be able to stand before thee. I will contend with him that contendeth with thee. On this account the Jews were not allowed to number their army. They might have an army, but small or great in number, the augment thereof should always be the unseen Almighty, in whose victorious alliance they firmly believed. They just as firmly believed that if they numbered their army, it would be defeated. David had always conquered all foes with his invincible soldiery. He had become proud and hard-headed, as victorious kings always become, and numbered his forces, though Joab, his leading general, implored him not to number them, saying, "The Lord make his people 100 times, so many more as they be." But David made out the tally of his ranks, oblivious to Joab's protests. Then Gad, who was David's occult reader of the outrushings of secretly held unspoken believings, told King David of the opening he had made for the outrush of the sub-reservoir of universal Hebrew certainty that numbering the army was disastrous. He showed David that numbering the army was doubting the ally. Within 3 days, 70,000 of David's most stalwart warriors had fallen dead from pestilence. The king had made an opportunity for sub-believing to come forth with unrestrainable energy into nationwide manifestation. Jerusalem, the self, is besieged to the 11th year of Zedekiah, or justice of Jehovah, until the only secret believing is the boldly declared original truth of my father's planting, the gnosis, not subject to defeat. There is ever the menace of some idle word. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. There have been 2 grandly uttered great believings in the history of man. They have sprung boldly forth from the divinely planted deep wisdom of the inward parts. High watch has struck back to them, and great have been the outward demonstrations of these two believings. Mankind has lately crossed them over with disbelievings, and sodded them down with refusings, till they are lost to view as original truth capable of mighty executiveness. They are sung and recited now long since as beautiful figures of speech, symbolics of unknown laws. But when God put wisdom in the inward parts, and showed the deep findings of upward look toward his vast, vast countenance, he made these believings the energy of executiveness, to save from war, pestilence, disease, and death. The first is believing in the power of his revealed name. For this cause have I raised thee up, that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. The name of the God of Jacob defend thee. And this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. Whosoever shall call on the name of the Lord shall be delivered. Our Redeemer, thy name is from everlasting. The second deeply planted gnosis is that mankind does not fight for the Almighty. The Almighty fights for mankind. Set yourselves, stand ye still, and see the salvation which the Lord will work for you. For the Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight. Fear not, I will help thee, thou Jacob, and ye few men of Israel. Not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord of hosts. One attempted believing there has been, over which mankind has stumbled and fallen, and quarreled much. Nobody has given mankind the clue, for nothing of it is to be revealed till the fulfillment moment of steadfast obedience to the ever-uttering mandate, seek ye my face evermore. This attempted believing has been as to the substance and nature of the presence of deity in the universe. Mankind has partly believed in the being of deity as principle, and partly believed in the being of deity as person. As principle demands reasoning, it follows that the ill-made or weak-brained are left out of the scheme of salvation. The weak-brained can hardly come at the algebra of one presence in the universe. Therefore, as I am that one. To the very cleverest brain, Jesus said, Why reason ye, as though the reasonings of the reasoners was not the light of salvation? What I say unto you, I say unto all, watch, he said, and he repeated the injunction. There is no child so stupid but can be made to look up to one ever beholding him, till gleams of intelligence steal down the track of his upward looking. As person intimates form and collect of parts, the term person applied to deity has stirred wide human resentment. Who is like unto thee, glorious, fearful, doing wonders, sang the children of Israel. Touching the Almighty, we cannot find him out. With him is terrible majesty, cried Elihu the Buzite. Yet the children of Israel and Elihu the Buzite had come nearer to knowing deity than any on earth before them, or saving the apostolic hierarchy, even since their inspirations. The nature of deity is undetermined, reads the most modern of cyclopedias. By the instruction of the 10th study in divine law, we find that lower attentions strike back no further than the shadow system gathered round the throne place of our inward being, while attention toward the countenance of the High Redeemer, inhabiting eternity, strikes back to the original believer, the divine gnosis, the throne place of our own being, where the knowing of the Lord's self lies deep. Daniel got caught in a lion's den by much knowledge of cause and effect in wickedness. He was in the teeth of the law of what a man soweth, that shall he also reap. He had not aforetime thrown other men to the lions. But he had never let go the bold statement of his inward certainty that God should send his angels to keep him. "O king, live forever," he said. "My God hath sent his angels, and hath shut the lions' mouths, that they have not hurt me." Likewise also Paul got caught by stones till he died of stones. Had he not in times past stoned other men to death? But his inward certainty that he that believeth in me, though he were dead, ye shall live, waked him from death. Thus mighty is an inward certainty firmly maintained, never ignored, never forgotten. Nations with nationwide certainties should remember them often, keeping them flaming by bold, oft-time expression. If there is certainty of conquering and salvation in Jesu Humana Salvator, a nation should never talk or write of sacrificing of its men, but only of conquerings and victories by its men, daringly going forth in the power of Jesu. If it has once stated its trust in the Almighty to deliver with bloodless victory, it should never let the trust get cooled over by fear of armed foe or dread of failure of its backer and ally. "On account of not fearing," wrote Isaiah, "thou shalt be far from oppression." "The 11 stars did obeisance to me," Joseph. All the stars and the laws of the stars give way to the miraculous touch of the supernal. Joseph means he will add. He, the supernal unseen, will add to life as it now stands, life by the miracle. He will add to powers as they now show forth, powers unaccountable. Every attempt was made to slay Joseph, but the unslayable supernal was his shield. Poverty and slavery tried to crush him, but the unseen Lord uncrushable folded him as a billowing sheet. He was not afraid because he had made the fearless one his high watchtower. Is not fearlessness a defense? But how does a coward generate fearlessness? By no process, we may be sure, except by much attention to the author of fearlessness. Do we not show forth that which we constantly attract our inward gaze towards? Consider how the sight of the angels of Mons altered the looks and the conduct of the soldiers who beheld them. In the 11th year was the house finished, and Solomon said that all who looked to the house should feel its mystical rulership for miraculous liberty. House signifies character. Finished house is character at its 11th state, with all its mystical powers in full action. To look at the light burning in the upper chamber of the house of Rai Shaligram, Postmaster General of Northwestern India, was to sense the effect of Rai Shaligram's mystical rulership. He had faced the splendor of invisible Brahma till his whole being was infused with the miracle of Brahma. He was certain that if he were naked and alone in a desert, Almighty Brahma would feed him, clothe him, shelter him, protect him from ravenous beasts. The rulership of his unshakable certainty was like far gleaming points, irresistible to the men who caught sight even of his house. They all felt like throwing aside their families, their business, their clothes, their previous minds, and fleeing to trackless desert places to be alone with great Brahma. The house of Gideon had reached its 11th stage. "Look on me," was all he had to say to cause Israel's armies to wake victorious liberty for all Israel. Peter and John had touched the 11th stage of character. "Look on us," was all they had to say for natural laws to unclamp. Character is judgment, and judgment is character. We are known to our neighbors according to our judgment. If we judge according to universal protection, seeing all mankind embraced in its mighty arms, upbearing, defending, as wings of eagle mothers under untried eaglet pinions, We give all who look toward our house new emotions, new judgments, concerning universal Allah, Brahma, God, as though for them a new light had broken on life and its mysteries. They catch bold assurance of omnipotent augment. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves, wrote the scientific prophet Habakkuk. Did not Socrates say that right judgment straightens out conduct, and wrong judgment deflects it? Did he not urge people to get right judgment by some attention to that which would eventuate in right judgment? The establishment of the Jesus Christ judgment in man is the fruition toward which all religious and mystical laws are bent. The Father hath committed all judgment unto the Son, he said. My judgment is just. The judgment day is come when all men judge the Jesus Christ judgment. It is the day of fire and brimstone to all other judgments. Appearances count for nothing. What stands back of appearances, in its unalterable excellence, holds undiverted attention. Is not man, back of his appearance of folly and decay, an immortal being, stately, wise, flawless? Ezekiel says we have been in Eden, the garden of God, when we have looked toward our own deep rock integrity, our hidden God self. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God, and the ruby is thy covering. Taking Martin Luther's advice to let the scriptures interpret themselves, we let Job interpret covering or robe. My judgment was as a robe and a diadem, he declared. So the ruby signifies right judgment and kingship. A king that sitteth in the throne of judgment scattereth away all evil with his eyes. No mistake is made by one who looks straight forth from his integrity center. He sees a full barrel of meal where the widow sees bare boards. He sees genius where others are seeing failure, or death, or insanity. He is the judge who sees the way to raise the dead as the mathematician sees the way to cube the fraction. He sees the right relation of man to man, and his word is the expression of his sight. Did not the word of the Lord in Elijah's mouth raise the Zarephath child? How had his word caught the spark of such executiveness? By his recognition of his own I, the man of God. How had he come to such high estimate of his own I? By much attention to the Lord God of Israel, before whom he declared himself as forever standing. The 11th lesson in divine law tells of the integrity within as right judgment, resident in all men alike, covered in all men by flesh and its mind as in a crypt of darkness. As silent is right judgment as if dead. It is called the mountain of Zion by Jeremiah, who wails that the mountain of Zion, which is desolate, the foxes walk upon it. He means that small, low, mean, myopic judgments run ahead and formulate our speech. The precious sons of Zion, he said, comparable to fine gold, how are they esteemed as earthen pitchers? As Elijah's recognition of his I as the word nigh him, even in his heart and in his mouth, came forth much recognition of the high Redeemer inhabiting eternity, and this looked forth from him as right estimates, so other men catch their self-recognitions from associating with other stronger men, and pass on their judgments wherever they go. Many seek the ruler's face, but every man's final judgment cometh from the Lord.